We'll visit that later. I'm super excited about this conversation, by the way.
Yeah.
I know, I believe Chara asked one of Mo a question in regards to why he selected you. And I know one of the things that we had discussed previously is the fact that we don't have, and when I say we, I mean Mo's audience and my audience, some of our audience who are typically low income, middle income, right, or middle low income, don't have access to you all who can get those resources or where they can even learn more about the resources that you all offer. So I think it's just very important sometimes that we be the conduit to allow people to see what's out there for them and what's available for them. So we're just super excited that you all agreed to join us today for sure.
We're excited to be here. Excited.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Perfect. Well, we're episode 14, right, JeRod?
Absolutely. Episode 14. Keep moving.
Yes. So, here is Mr. Coon. So we're on episode 14 of the discussion. We have some great guests with us this evening. I'm going to let them introduce themselves first. I want to give a shout out to JeRod Lindsay, my co-host.
Absolutely.
Always good to work with you, brother.
Happy to be here.
Great. I'm gonna start with the Chara Fisher-Jackson.
Chara Fisher-Jackson. I am the executive director and CEO of the Cincinnati Preschool Promise.
Nice.
And I am Lakeisa Ealy. I am the community engagement and marketing manager for Cincinnati Preschool Promise.
Amazing. Take it over, JeRod.
Welcome, ladies. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Thank you for agreeing to join. I know one of the things that we wanted to discuss with you all is, can you give us an idea of what the Cincinnati Preschool Promise is? What do you all do?
Absolutely. So in 2016, taxpayers voted to make an investment to say, how can we make high quality preschool accessible for kids in Cincinnati public school footprint, right? We all know that a strong foundation and a strong start makes a difference for a child, right? Access to a high quality preschool, getting that education when you're 3 years old and 4 years old sets you up for academic success, not only because you show up to kindergarten ready, but at 3rd grade, right? At 12th grade, throughout your career, you are better equipped to be academically successful and successful in your life. And so then the challenge was, if we know having a kid be kindergarten ready and preschool is the best way to do that, how do we make, one, more high quality preschools available, particularly in neighborhoods that didn't have them, right? And how do we make high quality preschool affordable? So for every 3 and 4 year old that lives in the Cincinnati Public School District, they are eligible, depending upon income level, for tuition assistance at a community preschool or a CPS preschool classroom. And the goal was to say, how can we reach? How can this be a game changer in saying, otherwise, one, sometimes people don't think of preschool as education, right? They think of it as playtime. But it really is education and setting a kid up. How do we remove those barriers, whether they be financial, whether they be geographical, to make sure that someone can get there to preschool?
I appreciate that explanation, Chara. And you did mention something that I'm interested in, right? This began in 2016, right?
That was when the official vote occurred that said, yes, we are, as a community, have decided we want to fund this, right?
Okay.
And then
So what? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Entity then went full charge and said, this is how we do the work, right? One is reaching out and recruiting families to make them aware that these preschools are out here and that they're affordable, and we have money to help pay for that. The other thing was reaching out to community providers to say, how do we help you get to high quality? So the state has something called a STAR system, a step up to quality system, where they make every preschool provider follow certain guidelines and regulations to get that STAR rating. People try to achieve a 5-star rating, right? A lot of what we do at the Preschool Promise is to support community providers on that journey to earn 5 stars. So how do we help you get curriculum? How do we help you get age-appropriate materials in your classroom? How do we help you find teachers and train teachers with professional development that will help you achieve those stars? How do we make sure you have playground and outdoor equipment so you can exercise those large muscle groups and small muscle groups that are important? How do we make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed so that the state regulating agency that's going to say you're high quality and you have a preschool that's going to do that education, how do we get you there? Right? So it's twofold, but we also don't want to leave out, it's also, how do we support educators and teachers? We know, we've all seen, acutely aware during this pandemic, early childhood education is in trouble, right? It's a group of people who are underpaid,
Right.
very frequently a group of people who look like us, African-American women, right? Who struggle, who are small business owners, who are entrepreneurs, and we trust our most valued thing in the world with the people that we pay and support the least. Right? So a lot of what the Preschool Promise does is said, how do we disrupt that, right? How do we change that trajectory so that we support teachers, right? With Teacher Promise grants. And how do we help make sure they get benefits? How do they get fair and equitable wages so that they stay in the profession? You know, we have initiatives to say, how do we recruit and retain high quality teachers and educators as well?
So can you speak a little bit about what you all are doing to recruit and retain high quality teachers?
So our Teacher Promise grants launched last year and have continued.
Teacher Promise grant.
We also have our staff support fund. And those Teacher Promise grants say that for every lead teacher, right? If you stay at the place where you're teaching, at the community provider, you receive financial support from the Preschool Promise to do that. And you also receive financial support to advance your education. If you want to go back and get another degree, you do that. Also, for providers that have not quite reached high quality, right, that don't have 3 stars, 4 stars, or 5 stars, we have to help you get there, because often the break in how you get there is whether or not you have qualified and credentialed staff.
Right.
So we launched a staff support fund that offers $3,000 for every lead teacher that you have on your site. And we have left it to the providers to say, how do you want to deploy these resources, right? Do you want to provide health benefits? Do you want to find a signing bonus? Do you want to use it to incentivize people in other ways to advance their education so that you can find and recruit these people and convince them to stay? Because it's a hard job, right? It is a hard, hard job. And so having funds available that allow us to do that, that we deploy to teachers directly and to providers in a way that they think best builds their business and attracts them. I will also say Lakeisa has launched off a new initiative this year as well, in that you will see on our websites and on our community newsletters, job openings for the first time. Opportunities for people that say, I'm interested in early childhood education, match me up with a provider, right? So we have asked every provider, if you're looking for support, send that to us. We will post it on our website and make that available. We also have a great partnership with CFT, Cincinnati Federation of Teachers, that's doing professional development and ongoing education as well, to say, how do we get our credentials so that we can get to those higher wages as well? But we have to be creative. You know, if you say, what keeps me up at night? It is recruiting and retaining those teachers and their staff, because the population that does early childhood education and has that expertise are aging out. Many of them aren't aging out are parents. So how, particularly in a remote environment, can you go to work if you have to care for your own children, right? And how does that happen? So we're also thinking about how we do the pipeline, right? How do we get people interested in this? Particularly at a time when we know there are higher bars for safe and healthy, safety and health. So we have community providers and educators who are having to do things today that they did before, because they were always conscious about health and safety, but they have to do it on 10, right? They have to be innovative in new and different ways. They have to be creative in new and different ways, because they don't know if they're going to always be in person or remote. They don't always know if they're going to be in touch with their teachers and families, right? They don't always know the things that we used to be able to count on are very dynamic in this environment and changing every day. So it's hard to recruit people, even if you have a passion for children and education, to say this is the place for you. So anything that we can do as the Preschool Promise to incentivize that, we're prepared to do, right? And so we have those available. I would encourage any Preschool Promise providers who may be listening. We sent out information, we've shared, we've called. There is still a window of opportunity. It is not closed, to say if you haven't got your application in, if you haven't sought that support, do so now.
Gotcha.
Do so now.
So you mentioned how you are, one, I think is a lot. It seems like you all wear a lot of hats. How many, if you don't mind my asking, what is the staff number? How many people do you have working at Cincinnati Preschool Promise?
You can see Lakeisa smiling. We are small but mighty.
Yeah.
Um,
I know you're mighty. You need
Yes.
I know you're mighty for
Small
sure.
but mighty. So most days we're at 6, right? 6 FTEs. Is that right, Lakeisa? Am I right? 6 FTEs, right? Yeah. We also have some contractors that we bring on board and some part-time staff, right? But this was built on a very lean model.
Mhm.
From the beginning, we said we don't want to be top heavy.
Right.
This is an investment that is made to serve families and children, right? And providers and the community. So we don't want to have a lot of administrative overhead. So the things that we can outsource, we outsource.
So,
If you ask me our ideal target size, it would be great if there were 10 of us, right? And we're going to grow to that size. But right now, there are usually 6 or 7 of us, depending on what season it is. And we rely on outsourcing to have evaluation, right?
yeah.
How are we doing to do our data measure and evaluation? We also outsource call center and contact, right? That helps us keep up with those applications and process as well. For the things that we do that are direct interface and touch with parents and providers, that is what our staff is for. Coaching, individual coaching. We rely on 4C for that. We rely on Learn and Grow for that. We
love
rely
4C.
on CA for that.
Learning growth. Love learning growth. Yes.
Right. Because if not, we would probably have to have a staff of 20 coaches. Right. So that's not what we want to do. We want to be in the operations and the touching piece and to make it possible for others to do their work. So small. Thanks for asking. 10 is our goal. 6.5 is where we are.
Certainly. And also you have an amazing board of directors. Can you name your board of directors? I just want to hear some of these great names. Starting with the board chair. Start with the board chair.
So the board chair is Father Michael Graham, that has been the board chair since the organization originated. And we have a very interesting structure as a nonprofit. So we have 3 entities that appoint board members to the Cincinnati Preschool Promise Board of Managers. CPS can appoint 5 members, the United Way of Greater Cincinnati appoints 5 members, and Promise Forward appoints 5 members, right? Dr. Odell Owens, Dr. Vanessa White, we have Deborah Alsap, which we all know and love for her presence in the community for so long in that early childhood education space. We have Christine Fisher, who was recently named one of the 40 under 40. We are so honored to have Miss Terry England, who has been on the board since the onset and just inducted into the African American Chamber's Black Business Hall of Fame. We have Laura San Regret, who is also a CPS teacher. We have Bishop Ennis Tate. Edwards, our board is just, Tony Hobson. We also have Gary Lindgren with the CBC and the CRBC with us. So our board is kind of a powerhouse. And and Chara Rose, who has been with us from the beginning. Just a wonderful group of supportive board members. Now, did I get all 15, Lakeisa? Because I don't want to leave anybody out.
Hold on, I'm gonna let her jump in.
I apologize, Michael Cameras. So he's also on the board.
Micah.
And then we also have our board observers that also work with the board of directors as well. So we have a mighty force of board of directors and also staff. So,
and our observers, of course, Greg Landsman, right? Yep. Vera Brooks, who is head of early childhood education for CPS, and my Weir with United Way.
And Jennifer Wagner with CPS.
Yes. We don't have to clean that up if I forgot anybody.
That's why I'm here for that, the support. There it is.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. And so I have to say they are the champions. They have done the hard work because a lot of people forget we're startup, right? We're startup. There are probably 43 preschool promise initiatives around the country, and everyone does it a little bit differently. Dayton does it a little bit differently than Cleveland. We did some work and research with Denver, but it's very unique in how it's funded and set up and regulated for every preschool promise. So for the last 3.5, 4 years, that has been the core group that says we are committed to figuring this out. We are committed to putting the structures in place. We're willing to be nimble and flexible. So we're going to try something. And if it doesn't work, we're going to try something else. And I think the board has taken a lot of, in some cases, constructive criticism, but not really celebrated their successes, in that they started from ground zero and made this work to the point that we have provided quality preschool seats for over 7,000 kids that otherwise would not have been served.
You've covered a lot, right? You've covered a lot in such a short period of time. I could just tell by listening to you talk how effective you are, right? You've covered a lot. I want to go back to how a quality or a rated 3 school, some of the barriers that they may encounter from getting to that 3 to 4, some of the more common barriers or opportunities that they may have, if you care to share some of those with us.
Sure. As you move up the step up to quality scale, there are more requirements for the things that you have to do to provide professional development for your staff and training. There are more things that you have to do to have direct communication and contact with parent. Parent engagement is key. There are more things that you have to do to measure and assess students, right? Is the curricula that I'm implementing effective? Not just do I have it, not do I just have a lesson plan, but do I have an individualized plan for each child so that I know they're meeting milestones, right? And they're advancing, right? So can you imagine trying to do all that and space guidelines, right? Are we healthy? Are we safe? Are we following protocols, right? Do we have all of those things that you do with a building and a school and a place where you have young people, in addition to the academic measures that you have to do, in addition to the staff development and growth that you have to do? So all that, can you imagine doing all that in a pandemic, right? And what I don't think a lot of people realized is on March 16th, I remember it because it was my birthday. I got off a cruise ship and came back to work and the world closed down. Yes. And I felt lucky to get off that boat, right? And yes. I got back and the world was crazy. And they said, oh, next week, all the schools are shutting down. We're extending spring break. We're shutting down. All childcare providers are shutting down. So I'm like, oh, this is a very interesting first year on the job, isn't it? Welcome.
Yes.
Well, but what wasn't a part of the narrative, right, that I don't think a lot of people know is they ordered a shutdown of all childcare programs on a Tuesday, right, for regular operations. Okay. They permitted them to reopen on a Wednesday, the very next day, with a special pandemic license and reduced ratios. So more than 50 of our community providers never shut down. They've been operating since March, following new guidelines, stricter health and safety standards, working at reduced ratios where they at one time had 20 children, now they can have 9 children, right? And as we all know, your overhead costs don't change. Your landlord doesn't want less rent. Your mortgage doesn't go down when you have 9 kids versus 20 kids, right? So throughout this period, our community providers have been open, serving essential workers, right? Because that's what they said. We are limiting this for essential workers. Everybody doesn't have to do it, but you can apply for a pandemic license, continue to operate to serve essential service workers. And our community providers in a large part said, we're willing to step up to the plate. We know the families we serve, we know the kids we serve, and we're willing to do this. We're willing to try it out and see what happens. That went till June 1st. At June 1st, everybody was allowed to reopen to serve any parents, not just essential service workers, but they had to stay at those reduced 1-to-9 ratios, right? So we had to shift again. And so I went to the board and I said, you know, we have what we normally consider the summer slide, because tuition assistance only goes for the academic year. But now we have the COVID side and the summer slide. And I have an idea that I think may be able to mitigate that.
Sure, really quickly, for our listeners, can you share what the summer slide is?
So it is the loss of learning, right? And in some cases, regression. When you are used to going to school every day and you're in your routine and you're in touch with your instructor, that during the summer months, when you don't have access to that, you lose the gains that you made during the academic year, right? You may have been at a 3rd grade reading level, now you may be at a 2nd grade reading level, right? That during the summer, there is a learning loss. Right? And we knew during COVID, from that shutdown in March, right, to June 1st, there was a loss. And so we said, how can we mitigate this? And if providers were willing to open and get kids back in the classroom, we were willing to say, we will provide tuition assistance to support that. So from June 1st to August 21st, which was Friday, we said, if people want to go back to the classroom, tuition assistance will report that. These are unusual times and we have to do it. We saw over 300 kids return to the classroom, right? Return to the classroom. And we know the only way that was possible is because community providers were able to have those reduced ratios, made the modifications, looked at innovative ways that they could do it, right? had the luxury in some cases of splitting their buildings, or many of the home care providers that we had, family child care programs, which is what we call them, are in someone's home, right? So they had small ratios and could manage that. But the expense is the hard thing to manage, right? Because with all the extra cleaning, all the extra things that you have to do, we have providers who said, we used to have one puzzle and we could share that puzzle. Now every kid has to have their own puzzle.
Right.
We used to be able to be inside and the parents could bring their child in, but now we can't have parents come in. So I have to have a staff member outside to meet them and a staff member inside to stay with the kids, right? And we knew, you know, for community providers, the cleaning and sanitation was always on 10, right? So they were used to that. It was always on 10. What they didn't expect is not to be able to find supplies to be able to meet those standards. Right. What they didn't suspect is having to be at Walmart at 6 a.m. just to get enough Clorox wipes to maintain what they had to do for the day, right? What they didn't expect is to have to amplify what they've always done, which is take care of families, to then have to talk to families about how they access unemployment benefits because their situations have changed, how they access health benefits. You know, they've always done that. You know, this is a time when I say our community providers could shine, but it quickly and rapidly at great expense, right? And so what I can say and what we're really proud of is thanks to the tenacity of our community providers, the investment that the Cincinnati Preschool Promise has been able to make and the support system that was there, we have no providers that started with us and have been with us pre-pandemic that have closed or gone out of business today.
That's huge. And I would love if you said that one more time.
Not one has gone out of business. And to be truthful, all of them have said they're going to open. Some have delayed opening and start remote, but most of them started on our academic year, if not earlier, for that continuous open period. So we haven't lost anybody. We don't know how long they can keep that up, but we haven't lost anybody, right? And that's remarkable. Yeah. That is remarkable. And made progress too. You know, we have some providers who have earned that high quality rating to get to 3, 4, and 5 during the pandemic. As of Friday, we had 14 providers who had made progress, who said, if I'm going to be closed or if I have reduced ratios, it now gives me time to do that professional development. It gives me the time to work on what I need to work on. It gives me a time to maybe earn my CDA and my credential and child development things that I wouldn't have otherwise had. So that's what I'm going to do. So we had providers who made progress during this time and have now earned those other stars to be high quality, which now makes them eligible for tuition assistance. We also have providers who said, I was a home-based family care provider and I'm going to keep that, but I'm also going to advance and do a storefront. I'm also going to do, you know, a public space, right? There were grants available to me that I took advantage of. There were PPE loans I applied for. There were people trying to support the community. Now's the time as a small business owner, I'm ready to branch out, right? Because the people also forget educators, right? With children first, but you also have to be a savvy business owner. So what we initiated probably, April, right? End of March, early April, Lakeisa, is a set of business support seminars, right? We were fortunate to have partners with the African American Chamber, but we also tapped on people to say, how can you bring to us your expertise? So LaShonda Wright did tax preparation for us. Because how do you file your taxes and make sure that is straight in what we do that? We relied on Chuck Futel and Futel Associates to say, how do you look at your economic forecast and your finances to be able to do that? So there were business support webinars that we did to say, how do you also manage your business house while being an educator? Because if you don't figure out how to do that in this environment, you won't survive.
Right.
And we also added onto that, even in that aspect, our wellness as well. So we had a licensed therapist to come and speak to our providers as a well check, because if you as a provider is not in line, you're unable to care for the children that you're doing, especially by us being in the pandemic. You know, there's a lot of uncertainties. So that's one thing that we also added to the business sense, because if you're not mentally and physically well, then everything else starts to filter and start to go down. So we want to make sure that everyone is whole, especially during this transition.
Virtual yoga was great.
We made that yoga. Yeah, yoga.
Yeah.
It was needed for our staff as well.
Yes, we did it. We all did it. That was fantastic. But I think what we've seen most is that, education just doesn't happen in the classroom, right? Our preschool providers and our teachers are committed to supporting education in every environment, and that means supporting the parents in whatever that looks like. So if a child can't come to preschool, we saw providers doing things like drive-bys, right? And dropping off a cupcake because that child missed the cupcake day,
right.
and they want them to miss it, right? Dropping by flashcards, right? To say, this is what you missed in class today, and this is what you do. Connecting with families by Zoom, with Zoom. Because what's very different about preschoolers is they have a recommended 30 minutes of screen time a day, right? So when we're in a digital environment or when kids can't come to school, we have to be really creative. And what our providers and our families said to us is that technology is very valuable to us, but we need hands-on equipment and supplies too. We need crayons. We need scissors. We need to have an environment so that our children, if we're at home, for whatever reason, not necessarily because school is closed, it may be because you have a change in employment situation, you have a change in housing situation, you have a member in your family who may not be well, you may be a secondary caregiver. So there are lots of reasons that someone may not be able to get to school in this environment. So how are we ready and prepared for that? And I will say our preschool providers have been innovative and amazing in doing that, to say whatever it needs for a family and whatever it needs to stay connected to this child and continue that education pathway, that's what we're going to do. And our role as the Preschool Promise has been to say, how do we support that? Because you're the experts. Parents are the experts in how to educate and care for their child, and community providers and preschool teachers are the experts in how to get you academically and social emotionally ready. We're the experts in saying, what do you need? And what do you need us to figure out how to support you? We know our lane.
Yeah.
Our lane is to do what needs to be done for both of those groups, parents and providers and teachers, to get a child kindergarten ready.
There you go. There you go.
So let me ask, Chara. So you continue to say provider. So Cincinnati Preschool Promise isn't just supporting Cincinnati public schools, right? You are also supporting privately owned preschools. Right. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. It's a mix of both. So it's Cincinnati Public School preschool classrooms, and Vera Brooks CPS does that. We have 236 community providers. So they could be family child care programs in the home. They could be single site centers, right? One place, one location, or they could be multi-site centers like Learning Grove. We also have a number of parochial schools that have kindergarten, preschools as well, that we work with. So when I talk about community providers, it's that group of 236 that are not CPS classrooms. And those are providers, they're not classrooms, because some of those providers have 3, 4, 5 classrooms. Right?
Nice. Yeah. Okay.
So what will it take, right? I know we talked earlier about recruiting and retention, right? Because some people are starting to age out. What does it take for someone to be a preschool provider? And what do you feel like are some of the challenges to getting to that point for them becoming a preschool provider?
Excellent question, JeRod. Excellent question.
Good question. Always startup, right? Startup an entrepreneurial business, and it's a very regulated business, right? There are compliance requirements, but there are also resources out there to say, if you're interested in starting this as a business, how do we get you there, right? So the obstacle, to me, the greatest obstacle is not only capital, right? It's the knowledge of how the system works. And we are very fortunate to have partners like 4C, because 4C is the designated agency for Hamilton County that services and provides and helps providers, right? So start there and say, what resources are available if I want to do this as a startup business? And people have talked to us and said, this is something I'm interested in doing, is the time right now. And it is making sure you understand the licensing requirements, right? In many cases, looking at how you select a location. So you will see on our website, and what we've always talked about is quality gap neighborhoods. So where is there a neighborhood that doesn't have a high quality preschool, right? Because you probably wouldn't want to start in a neighborhood that has 5 other preschools right there, right? Probably wouldn't want to do that. It's not the business savvy thing to do, but to have a business plan that complements your educational credentials, right? And then how do you get to that 1 star? Application process, online process can be done, right? People willing to work with you, but also be patient and be ready. This may not be like other startup businesses because of those regulations to make sure that we keep kids and families safe, right?
Thanks.
And educationally appropriate. Educationally appropriate, right? So we may think construction paper and scissors are educationally appropriate, but you have to go with that evidence-based curricula and how you do it, right? And we have some people that are doing very well. And I have found the community provider and educator network to be welcoming, supportive, to say, how can we help? Because we all achieve together. Because what they've said is in many cases, we don't want to be competitive. Our goal is to get every kid. Get every kid. And we know different families have to make different choices for different circumstances because many of our providers have extended care. They start at 6 a.m. They go to midnight. They do first shift. They do second shift. They do third shift. Preschool Promise funds school day time for 6+ hours, right? But that's not the reality of what many parents have to do. So providers have to be creative in saying, how do they extend their day? How do they work with parents to be able to afford that? How do they access publicly funded childcare to help with that? Those are all things that people have to be aware of, but there are resources and statewide and national associations for early childhood educators and preschool providers that we can connect people to that are interested.
I appreciate that.
Challenge waiting to knock it out the park, right?
I appreciate that and letting us know. 4C is one of the resources that people can connect to if they are interested in, that can just get the ball rolling, help them get the ball rolling, right?
Absolutely.
Lakeisa, I want to get you in here. Earlier, Chara mentioned that you are launching an initiative. Is it next week? What is this initiative? When will it be launching? Can you tell us more about it?
So we actually, and I say we because this is all about the team. So we have already started our initiative, and that is one of the initiatives is what our provider perspectives a video on YouTube. So many may not know, we are Cincinnati Preschool Promise is available on all social media, from YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, because we want to make sure that we're tapping into all of our stakeholders, everyone that is involved. And from that, what we've developed is what is called the provider perspective, which we also share on social media, but some people, like, may not have that access, but they are able to go to YouTube. But what that does, it tells the story of our providers and their challenges and what their successes are from their eyes. They're telling the story, they're sharing what they need, they're sharing how Cincinnati Preschool Promise is helping them achieve this goal from the quality improvement area as well as the tuition assistance. From there, we also share open seats. That is a major campaign and initiative that we're putting out there. So many times that our providers are really heavily inundated in their work. Sometimes they do not have the opportunity to spread the news of what seats they have available for their preschool. So what we do is we take the opportunity to share how many available preschool seats are open to families in the Cincinnati public school area. We also are sharing our partnerships. A lot of people may not know who we work with. As you both iterated, that you understand 4C, you understand the learning growth, but there's other people that have worked with us that are willing to spread the message of our mission, and that is to get our preschoolers going into kindergarten. But sometimes, as she already stated, it's only 6 of us, so we need other people to come on board, and that's where we developed a partnership with the African American Chamber of Commerce, where they are actually launching the Smart Start to Smart. Oh, I just forgot it. Smart Start. I apologize. Smart Start, where they're actually taking donations from their partners, the chamber members, and actually creating book bags so families can have that for their home. If in fact, if we have to go into another closure, that they have the necessary tools to actually work at home. As you understand that remote learning may happen. You never know, but we want to make sure that the message to the community is there and that we work with other people to make our message stronger and better. So those are the initiatives that are going on. There's so many more, but that is the really heavy ongoing things that we're doing at Preschool Promise.
Right. Thank you, Lakeisa.
Wow. Like just every time I hear you all talk, I'll bet I continue to hear in my head a 6 FT, and it's just amazing. So I applaud you too, for sure, and the rest of you all staff. Mm-hmm. So what I want to understand is there are 236 providers outside of CPS. Preschool, we understand how important that is, how important an age that is. What are some of the challenges that you all are seeing? I know, Chara, you mentioned earlier how involved our providers are with the parents. What are some of the challenges that our preschoolers are facing, right, from low-income communities? What are some of the things that you are hearing back from your providers? Can you share that with us?
So one thing is food security, right?
Food security.
Over the summer, we were really worried about food security. And so we really tried to get the word out to say, these are the partners, right? We know CPS had food distribution. We know Free Store Food Bank did amazing delivery of food boxes and resources to families through Amazon delivery. Childhood Food Solutions did shelf-stable boxes for us. And we wanted to do it in a way that shared with people what they needed. And in many cases, the provider knew what they needed. And they said to us, if the boxes come to us, we may divide it up for what a family needs and get it to a family. Because you can't pick up a food box if you don't have transportation. You can't pick up a food box if your work hours are during the time that the food distribution is, right? Sometimes you don't want to pick up a food box because of how that makes you feel, right? Yeah. And then how do you pick up a food box on the bus with your 4 kids in a stroller? What you gonna do, right? And so there are challenges like that we try to say, how do we help overcome those barriers, right? Transportation. Some providers have buses where they go pick kids up to bring them to preschool. Transportation, we know in this region, will continue to be an issue. What we know and what we hope in most cases won't be a barrier is finances. You know, and what I would encourage people to say is go to our website and look at the income eligibility, because the last 3 families that I talked to thought that they wouldn't be eligible. And when they actually looked at their income and their family size, they were more than eligible to get that support, right? So we don't want the money to be a barrier at all.
So let me ask you this. With you and Lakeisa working in tandem, what is some of the outreach, or how do people become aware of Cincinnati Preschool Promise?
You want to take this one first, or you want me to take it? Because it is
however, because there's a lot of ways for for families or how the message is out. But I'll allow Chara to do that, and then I'll go on my end, because we're broken. How our messages get is out. It happens in various ways. So I'll let Chara handle that, and then she can shoot it to me.
So I will say, just during this pandemic, our team launched 8 individual campaigns to say, how do we get the word out, right? One of those is social media campaign that Lakeisa mentioned, where we highlight providers.
Yeah.
One, even in a COVID pandemic environment, it is being out at every location that we can socially distancing, right? So at the Cincinnati Works job fair that happened, Lakeisa was masked up on site, signing up people, right? So we have to do that. We also have a website that has an application there, but we rely on partners, right? We have a partner who has a restaurant that does delivery. I'll let Lakeisa give you the details so we can highlight her. But she was willing to put a sticker about Preschool Promise on every one of the pizza boxes that she delivered for a weekend, so parents can call. We all have magnets that go on our side of our cars, so that you see us in the community, we're repping Preschool Promise. Call us, ask us, we want to talk about it, right? And we have an outreach team that is led by Florence Malone, who is our enrollment manager, and Kim Bolden, who is our P team member, and that is our powerhouse team, right? So at every opportunity, if you see them in the grocery store, wherever you see them, they're ready to talk about preschool promise. If a provider says, I have 3 families that are eligible and I need to walk them through the application, they will go to that provider location to talk about the parents. Because many times what happens is we have providers who say, yeah, I want to be a part of preschool promise, but they need someone to partner with them to tell all the families how to make that accessible and fill out the paperwork, right?
Mm-hmm.
You will have seen us with a literature drop at the back family reunion. Over 1,000 touch point pieces went out, right? Any event that's happening in the community, we welcome the opportunity to spread that, to drop off some preschool promise swag, to show up, talk about it. We rely on our faith-based community, right? We have a community engagement committee that is led by Bishop Ennis Tate that says, faith community, how do we reach out? How do we talk at your church on Sunday? How do we put something in the brochure? That was all good till pandemic hit. Now we're being real creative. Right?
Real creative. So this is the part where I said that I'll take it over, because what this initiative that I'm starting, it's nothing new. It's just a better way for us to be out in the community, especially virtually. I'm the person that goes out in the community, but what I'm looking for are ambassadors. My goal is to have 52 ambassadors, one representing each community in the city of Cincinnati, or I should say in the Cincinnati public school area. The reason being is, as you know, we can't be everywhere. We may not get the information back to us. So it's imperative that we reach out to individuals that are community oriented, or educators, or someone that feels like they have a purpose to spread our mission, to come back and help us. So what we want to do is launch the brand, the Cincinnati Preschool Promise Ambassadors. Chara did give me a total of 104, but I said my minimum is 52. I feel that we can do it. I think that we can do it, but right now 52 strong community leaders, even young adults. We have to get our young adults involved as well. And even I'll take preschool babies, you know, walking with their families, because like I said, it's imperative that we as an organization tap into the communities, but we have to have community liaisons be able to take the charge and then pour back into us. And I believe that's very important. When you have someone being individuals pouring into you, then you're able to pour out to other people, and to make sure that the message is clear, concise, and making sure that it is reaching its goal.
Wow.
So I know you're not going to just mention ambassadors and not tell us how someone can become one.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So what I'll do is, and I will tell you, it's best if you email me. Once again, my name is Lakeisa Ealy. That's Lakeisa. And the funny way to actually remember that is Lake is A. So just in case you may forget my name, but
Lake
you can.
Is A. Never. Wow, that's the first time for that one. Wow.
So you can reach me via email, which is LEALY@Cincy-promise.org. And that's Cincy, CINCY-promise.org. And I'll make sure that we can connect, because I also want to make sure that you're educated to understand how the preschool promise works. Because as you said, JeRod, there's a lot of components that goes in with the Cincinnati Preschool Promise. And one of those things that we also talked about, going back to our partnerships, we talked about the sticker. It can be, even though you may think, you know, placing stickers are little, that is a major, major thing to actually do. And our partner, Gail Wright, who owns one of the La Rosas down on West 8th Street, in the downtown area, she was gracious enough to allow us to do that. And it's as simple as putting something out there, even for us to put a flyer or a yard sign in your yard. That's what we want to do. We need your help. Once again, it's Lakeisa Ealy, L-Ealy@Cincy-promise.org. I'm willing to take all ambassadors. Even if I get 2 from each area, 3, I'm willing to take you on, because there's work to do. You may work in a different community. We need you. We need partners.
Is there a certain one? I want to say, Chara, thank you for taking the liberty to put it in the in the chat box. Go ahead, Chara, and I'll follow up. Go ahead.
No, this is on. I was just going to say that, we also have a phone number that I can never remember. It's
513-447-4277, or you can remember it 447-4CPP.
And the thing I will say that's unique about us is every call gets answered and returned. Every email will be responded to. So emails are great. It lets us do rapid fire. But if people also call, you will get a live person eventually that will talk to you and walk you through any of these aspects. Being an ambassador, filling out the application, coming on board as a provider, all of those things. Which is why, when we say we outsource stuff, we also bring it in-house too, so that there's always someone who will return your call. We don't do automated, right? There are live bodies here, and we are committed to making sure we have that personal touch, because that's what makes this work.
Again, 6 FTE, folks. This is amazing. I want to know what overtime looks like, because this is ridiculous, right? Look. Okay, say no more. I'm gonna leave it there. Lakeisa, what would be some of the duties or responsibilities that you would expect out of an ambassador? That's one. Two, how many hours do you think an ambassador would need to commit per month to Cincinnati Preschool Promise?
Well, I will say it's really on their own time.
Okay.
I ask that because there's difference between ambassadors and then volunteers, because they're as you know, before pandemic, we will have parades. So of course I will allow the strollers to come, the babies, preschool families, things of that nature. With the ambassadors, I do ask that they'll be 18 and older. The reason why it's a better, they have a little bit more freedom, but I will not take I won't say anything, no to anyone that's willing, but to share our message. It's as easy as first for me to educate you about our organization, so you're able to communicate to those that you come in contact in your network. Also to just sharing our social media post, also giving us information that we may be missing. As Chara has explained, there's other preschools that almost designed like ours, but sometimes we may be missing something. So it's not about hours, it's about more of informational type of things. Or if, say for instance, I'm unable to be at an event, then that person can speak for us to say, hey, I want to just tell someone about the Cincinnati Preschool Promise. So I wouldn't count on it about hours. It's all about how much of your time are you willing to invest to spread the message. Like I said before, they may also be involved in an organization that we may not know about. They can tell us like, hey, you need to go to Sailor Park because they're having some type of organization, an event that I think you need to be. That's all. It's as simple as that.
Gotcha.
And I think it's also, as Lakeisa mentioned, the social media, the more that you can use your influence to share and post and like. So we do targeted Facebook to say, make sure that throughout the week, we do something that's for our parent audience, for our provider audience, and for the general community. On LinkedIn, we make sure we do updates on what's happening nationally, locally, scholarly articles on early childhood education and preschool, Instagram, Twitter. The more that someone can follow and like what we do, the easier it is for us to get the word out. Because in many cases, what we know is the digital age is sometimes the equalizer, right? You may not be getting the paper like you used to, but you on Twitter, right? You may not have cable where you get all those stations and all those commercials, but you're on Facebook. And so the more that we can share the message that way in the digital environment, it really helps us, right? So if people just go on and like a post that we did, and their friends see that they've liked that post and say, never really thought about the Preschool Promise before. What is that? That helps, right? That helps us enormously.
And we do direct mail as well. So if they call and say, hey, I'm not a person, there's some people that may not be on social media or on the digital, but they'll say, hey, I want to help. I'll be happy to put a packet together, put it in the mail and mail it to you. As we stated, providers are extremely busy. Hey, sometimes I drive to the center or to their home to say, here goes something for you to spread the message. Here goes some door knockers. Hey, or if you know, walking around, that you have something in your pocket just to pass out to someone, because some people just, you know, feel like they're able to do that, to be now, you know, in the community a little bit more than we were in the pandemic. So there's always, there's availability or opportunity for everyone to be involved. Direct mail, social media, just even picking up the phone to say, hey, who can I call? Right. Let me call 5 people today and tell them about Cincinnati Preschool Promise. So we are not limited for ambassadors at all.
Any way you want to get in, we can fit you in, right? And I think what we've seen is,
I'm willing to take it. I'm willing to
do it. Our direct mail has picked up so that we start doing 2 touch points a month to our parents. Well, they'll get a happy postcard that are games for kids, right? Or some information piece, because what they said is kids like getting that in the mail. We like doing it. Some of us have gone back to direct mail and how valuable that is. And, you know, Florence Malone with our parent and our enrollment and tuition assistance really put a lot of thought in working with Lakeisa and saying, what are the educationally appropriate things and fun things that we can do that are a touch point? Because once we have a family and a child, we consider that ours. Right? So if you for a month didn't get to come to school, if you decided as a 3-year-old you were there, but you weren't sure as a 4-year-old, you're still our Preschool Promise family, and you're going to get a mail out for us that says, we still want to make sure you're on track to get kindergarten ready, right? We're still connected to you. We still want to make sure you get there. And so our evaluation, what we also do is we do a look at those kids that go to CPS kindergarten and match them up and say, how are we doing? Right? Did they show up there ready? Did we do everything that we needed to do to make that happen? And I don't want to forget to mention, there is also a parent-only Facebook page. So we have a general CPP Facebook page, but there is one that is only for parents. I'm not even allowed to get on it because I'm not a parent. So we have a Preschool Promise parent who runs it for us. And it's for people who are not only current parents, but if you're thinking about it. If you have a 2-year-old, you're starting to investigate and see what that looks like. Right? We encourage people to join that parent Facebook site. And part of that is you'll get information that's specifically for parents, but it connects you with the parent network, but also the expanded resources we have. So we started something this year, and you're talking about campaigns and how would people know? Preschool chats. And preschool chats are facilitated by Flo Malone, and it is a candid conversation that says, what do you want to know? So we had a session that says, what do you mean by remote learning? And how parents define remote learning and preschool providers and educators provided remote learning were like Venus and Mars, right? It was completely different things. And then we had a session where we said, as a provider, can you tell us what's going on in a preschool? And as a parent, what do you want to know? What are you scared about? From keeping your kid? Do you want us to walk you through the health and safety protocols that a provider goes through at every day so you know what's going to happen? Do you want us to talk you through the state regulation and rules? So we have preschool chats that are going to happen at least monthly through the remainder of the year. And it really is, we have some questions and we kind of structure it, but we really want it to be a space where parents can talk about whatever they want to talk about and get the information that they need. So if a parent says to us, this is what I want to know about, expect to see that on Preschool Chat, right? Where we bring industry experts, we bring people in the community, we bring people on the front line to say, talk about what's happening, and you have an opportunity to ask questions, and no question is bad, right? We want to be honest and have that candid conversation because we owe that to the parents.
Right.
We owe that to the community. We are taxpayer funded, and we're always aware of that.
Amazing.
All right, we're rounding third. Again, I want to say 6 FTE, and it's amazing. Seriously, I'm overjoyed with some of the information that you all share with us, from how you all help with tuition assistance, how you all are engaging in the community. As we begin to wrap up, is there anything, Lakeisa, Chara, that you all want the community to know that we haven't covered? Any questions that I haven't asked that you all feel is important for people in the community to know?
Space is available. Opportunities are available for your preschoolers. seek us out, right? If you are at a provider and you're struggling financially and that provider may not be a part of Preschool Promise, let us know. We'll do the outreach. But there is the opportunity there for us as a community and us as an agency to come together to do everything we can to connect your child with a quality preschool that prepares and gets them ready and supports you as a family.
And I'm putting the website on there so everyone can go to our website to find out a little bit more information about the organization as well. And then the phone number is on there.
Yeah, and I share those on the Facebook Live as well. So,
and look for us in September. In September, we'll be releasing our annual report that shows not only our outcomes and performance for the last academic year, but our impact. We'll also be releasing our external evaluation that's done by Innovations that says good or bad, and this is how we need to move forward. So those are exciting things coming up because I think when we tell the story, everybody will be astounded by the work of our community partners, astounded by what good partners CPS has been, to say not only are we handling what public school is, but we're willing to partner with the community and community providers because it's best for what families need and for education, right? And you will see the amazing stories of families who we know trust us with their most precious thing, and that's their preschoolers and how they made their way to kindergarten.
And that is going to be on September the 22nd at 4 o'clock. And everyone, our meetings are publicly, they're open to the public. All you have to do is go onto our website and then register on our Zoom account. And then you'll get a link to join into that. And we're excited about, I like annual reports because we get to celebrate what we've been doing with our small staff. So, you know, but really, honestly, even though we have a small staff, we have great providers that makes it possible for us to continue to do the work and the mission and fulfill the vision that was orchestrated back in 2016.
And we have just a few minutes. I would be remiss as a CEO if I didn't acknowledge each one of our staff members by name, right? Please. So we have, of course, I've mentioned Florence Malone, who is our enrollment manager for tuition assistance, Brittany Pina, who's our quality improvement manager that helps people move up that step up to quality, Leslie Nunn, who is our administrative director, Hector Polanco, who is our finance director, our newest addition to the team, Kenitra Mathis, who is our program and evaluation manager. We're also supported by Kim Bolden, who is our PT member, and Laura Carr, who supports the marketing communications team.
That's amazing.
So, an amazing team that I was lucky to be a part of, that they let me join in October, and have been, you know, I couldn't ask for better. Couldn't ask for harder workers or people more committed to the mission. And so every chance I have to acknowledge them, they're the people that help make this possible. And make
Certainly. And you know, previously, a couple weeks ago, we had Mike Maurice, and he's one of the greatest fans of Cincinnati Preschool Promise. And if I understand, you all do joint board meetings occasionally. Is that correct? With CPS.
We will have one on the 23rd, right? Because CPS is a great partner. Their board is amazing. We can't say enough about Superintendent Mitchell and how she has really been committed to this preschool expansion initiative. So our annual meeting will be on the 22nd. Our joint meeting with CPS and the Preschool Promise will be on the 23rd.
Okie doke. Perfect.
With that being said, again, thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you for all the information that you provided us. I'm overwhelmed. I just hearing you all talk about all the things that you all do, like, I can't say enough about it. I'm super impressed. I hope to become an ambassador. Lakeisa, you can be looking for an email from me. I'm definitely, I'm coming.
Likewise.
Absolutely. Chara, it's been a pleasure meeting you. Hopefully we cross paths again. And continue to do all the great work that you all do. Super powerful, super influential, and impactful. So thank you all so much for joining us on the discussion.
Yes. Thank you all so much. You know, I'm overjoyed, just like JeRod said. I'm very overjoyed as well. And I know this is important work to share out to our community.
Absolutely.
Very, very, very important work. So thank you all. I definitely will be emailing you soon. And also, maybe even in consideration to maybe start a young professionals board, because I know there's very eager young people who are willing to go out here and promote that and be those ambassadors. So, you know, I know a little bit about Young Professionals Board, but
yeah, you're a young professional. I'm not a young professional.
well, right, but yeah, but I mean, you talk about you know, engaging in young professionals. I think that might be something as well, because there's many young professionals looking to get involved. And
Maurice, and this is what I'm talking about as far as, like you said, even coming up with creative ideas like what you just presented. Those are the things of what an ambassador does. Something to make our even though we're doing great work, we need to be greater. You know, serve our purpose. And like you said, come with ideas, be involved in that capacity. And I appreciate it, Maurice.
Certainly. Thank you. So thank you. And so on September 11th, I think that's the next day we have on a discussion. We are going to have Cincinnati Youth Collaborative. I know you all know Erica Copeland, the great CEO of CYC. She's going to be joining us along with Councilwoman Kearney, Councilwoman Jan Michelle Lemon Kearney. She's going to be joining us to celebrate CYC's 5 outstanding students for the 2020. The amazing group of young ladies who have who received scholarships to either further their education in the upcoming year. We're going to be celebrating them. Lemon Kearney and Erica are going to be on board, and we're going to be discussing social justice and how they can answer the call. So I think it's it'll be a great episode. Please look forward to that. Thank you, Chara. Thank you, Lakeisa. Thank you. We were so grateful. I don't think people recognize how grateful we are as a region to have the Cincinnati Preschool Promise. Like, seriously, the taxpayers spoke up, you know, and if I'm not mistaken, I think the Cincinnati Preschool Promise will be up this November. You know, we're so thankful and grateful to have Cincinnati Preschool Promise. And I can say this, but let's keep it going. Let's keep it going.
Absolutely.
Let's keep it moving.
Absolutely.
Make sure you all get out and vote in November. Make sure we get out and vote. That is a very important thing. That's a very important thing. Get out and vote. So
let's support Cincinnati Preschool Promise, folks.
Yes. Me and JeRod, we saying it. Support Cincinnati Preschool Promise.
Absolutely.
It's important. Absolutely. Hey, thank you all. This is episode 14 of Discussion. Y'all have a great evening, okay? Enjoy it.
Thank you.
All right.